Morning Anambra show, and today on the show we're looking at thunderstorm and flooding predictions, preparing for possible outbreaks. If you are alive and well today, you will realize that in 2012 we had one of the greatest flooding in the history of Nigeria, and of course last year came with a lot of deaths of children and women. And we're not resting on our oars to get us informed about flooding and its impending danger, of course, thunderstorm inclusive, so that we get to work and know what we can do to avert things that need to be averted. In the studio this morning, I have Jack Peniel, who is a State Coordinator, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, NESRIA. Welcome to the studio, Peniel.
Thank you very much. Good morning and a pleasant week.
All right, we are glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
And now, let's see, thunderstorm and flooding predictions. We've witnessed it before. You know, can we look at the background of this before we move on?
Okay, it is a pleasant thing that the technology has come to this point where such devastations could be seen
before they happen.
Yes, way ahead of time. And Nigeria as a country has keyed into that technology with early warning system, which has helped the respective agencies to, from time to time, warn the citizenry of possible disasters or natural occurrences that may be devastating. One of it is what we are about to discuss, which is thunderstorm and flooding. And recently there was this publication going around on social media by one of the agencies of the government, Nigeria Lightning Safety and Research Institute, warning of possible thunderstorms this May especially. Although it's important to mention that the NIMET, Nigeria Meteorological Agency, came up later on to warn that that information was not from them, because they are the sole agency responsible with informing the government on meteorological issues. Yeah, so they came and said there is no cause for alarm. We should not, I think if I quote them right from what I read, say we should disregard that. But just yesterday we saw rain in Anambra and it was stormy. So it is only proper that if such warnings are there, we've experienced it 2012, like you said, and was 2020. It's important that we look at them and take precaution. So thunderstorms are natural, and they are actually rainfall, heavy rainfall, not just rainfall, heavy rainfall that are accompanied with strong winds, lightning, thunder itself, and then the rain are usually heavy. And so when this happens, like I said, it comes with thunder, which is the sound we hear, and then lightning, which has in itself electric powers or electricity and can cause any kind of havoc. We've seen situations where it pierces through trees and cut down trees where human beings have been killed. In fact, record has it that lightning alone kills more than tornadoes and other forms of atmospheric issues. So it's important that we look at it and advise ourselves. We cannot stop them, they are natural occurrences, but we can take precautionary measures.
All right, I think there is something that comes to mind. Before now, when we were much smaller, we used to have rains, we used to have thunderstorms, you know, but the consequences then, we don't see it with what we are seeing on ground now.
Okay.
Does it mean something changed along the line, or what actually has happened between in the 80s and today?
Okay. Well, let me look at it from two major perspectives. If any other perspective comes to mind, I will say it. But one, as at that time, technology was not this advanced. So we can't actually say the level of the storms or the intensity of the storms. But then there has been the issue of climate change, which gives the warning that there will be extreme conditions in weather and weather conditions. So it will not be far from the climate change that have been put on the burner for this long. But also then, we see these things as they evolve. We have population increasing. The urban areas are densely populated. Even the rural areas are even now being populated. So the impact of this thing will be more now, unlike in years where maybe the floods.
Do you think deforestation was part of it?
Of course, because one of the key advantage of forest is to break down the wave, the speed of the water. They also use this water. So what finally gets into the runway, even if it is not reduced in terms of the quantity or the volume, the speed itself is broken down. But when we have cleared the forest and then they have bare grounds, the speed is even worse or is increased. And then they have more land to cause devastation.
All right. This is another prediction. We know, I could remember there was predictions before the 2012 flooding came. There was equally predictions before last year's own happened. And I don't know what is going to change with this current predictions. Please let us know. What do we, how do we go about it? Because predictions happened and we see what actually happened after the predictions. Even the last year's own, lives were very much involved. So what are we going to do with this current predictions? What do we do with it?
Okay. Before now, the general attitude has been just talk. But over time, like 2012, I was in Ibadan. And when that flood took place, if I am not missing the counts, deaths recorded in Ibadan were over 70 persons, including children. Over 70, just in one evening. The rain started about 5, between 5 and 7, 8. And, we had that level of devastation. So the attitude generally has been, it's just talk. But people have come to realize that these predictions, especially with the advance in technology and the accuracy in it, people are beginning to take it serious. So I expect that this time around, the devastation or the losses will not be as previous years or previous times. But then we still need to sensitize and inform our people to be proactive, to take precautionary measures. What are the precautionary measures that they can take?
Okay, just hold it. We'll be right back.
Okay.
The program is Good Morning, Anambra, looking at the predictions about flooding and preparing for possible outbreaks and the thunderstorm. We'll take a short break here. We'll return shortly. Ndi Anambra, una pụtagola.
Ibolachi.
Good morning, Ndi Anambra.
Welcome to Good Morning Anambra Breakfast TV show on ABS TV.
Now, let's do it together.
Bia Kaido Okwa.
We serve it sizzling hot.
Health and lifestyle. Security. Topical issues.
National development.
Entertainment and more.
Welcome to the flagship show, where we arm you with the right tools for the day.
Keeping you abreast with happenings and information within and beyond the state.
There are so many things to gain staying tuned to Good Morning Anambra on ABS TV.
Good Morning Anambra, live on ABS Television, weekdays 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Great news for Anambra Broadcasting Service ABS audience. You can now watch ABS television through any of these ways.
Buy a terrestrial antenna and connect to your television. Search ABS Channel 24 Oka or ABS Channel 27 Onitsha. Install StarTimes cable decoder and search ABS Channel 113. Install Metro Digital cable decoder and search ABS Channel 29.
Watch ABS TV on your smart TV or smartphone by downloading Anambra Broadcasting Service app on Google Play Store. Also watch via ABS Facebook page at ABS Radio Television and ABS YouTube page at ABS Television Oka.
ABS TV is now also on satellite. You can watch us from anywhere in Nigeria and other African countries. Simply install ViewSat TV decoder or any other free-to-air decoder and tune into channel 0031.
Whichever option you choose, stay abreast of breaking news, documentaries, children's shows, talk shows, comedy, sports, movies, and lots more on your darling TV station.
For adverts and program sponsorship, contact 0803 388 8526 or 0806 883 9902. ABS, Heartbeat of the East.
nwanne m ekene dịrị Chineke na gọọmenti Soludo azọpụtago anyị n'aka ndị agboro na ndị na-akapụ mmadụ ego n'ọdụ ụgbọala ahịa na okporo ụzọ dị iche iche na steeti a.
Eyo onye ka o ji dị mkpa na anyị ga-atụtụ isi anyị n'ụtụ ndị ọzọ n'oge na mgbe o kwesịrị.
Nke a dị oke mkpa maka na ejiri ọnụ etinye azụ n'ofe n'ihi na ụlọ akwụkwọ dị mma
Tax mere ya.
ezigbo ụlọ ahụike
Tax mere ya.
okporo ụzọ bụ kpoo n'oyoyo
Tax mere ya.
tinyere ụmụ ihe ndị ọzọ eji enyere ndụ aka.
Mana gbaa mbọ kwụọ ụtụ isi gị na bankị ọbụla gọọmenti kwadoro. Ime etu a ị mara na inye gị aka ịchọpụ ndị fọmfọju akpa na ndị omekome ji ego gọọmenti eme onwe ha eze gị.
Ndị Anambra kunienu ka anyị Soludozie Anambra
ka ọ bụrụ kpọngem.
n'ịgbaso ebumnobi ime ka obodo ndị mepere emepe bụrụ oji anya lere akpọrọ Urban Renewal Agenda. Ọchịchị Soludo amalitego ikpochasị Ọnịcha, Ọka, Nnewi, Ekwulọbịa na nnukwu obodo ndị ọzọ dị na steeti a. Aka na-achị steeti a, Ọkammụta Chukwuma Charles Soludo atụpụtago ukwu egwu site n'iso kpochasị ọwa ide ndị dị n'Ọchanja na gburugburu ya. Ọ ga-ekwe omume ime Anambra steeti ka ọ bụrụ oke obodo nwere ukwu osisi na-enye ndụ ma dị ọcha. Sonye n'amụmụ ikpocha ọwa ide na idebe ya ọcha. Debe gburugburu gị ọcha, na-ekpocha ọwa ide gị oge niile. Ejikwa na ahịhịa asụchi ọwa ide na-aghafu akwụkwọ pure water, unele na ọkpa nke ọma n'ebe kwesịrị ekwesị. Biko tụọ otu mkpocha na nzacha gị ka gọọmenti nwee ike lụọ ọrụ ndị dịrị ya. Solution abịago. Sonye na solution a.
On assumption of office, Mr. Governor Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo declared a state of emergency on roads in Anambra State. He has since turned the entire state into a construction site. Within 10 months in office, over 270 kilometers of road have been flagged off and contractors paid 30 to 50% upfront. More roads are also being constructed and they will be done with tax money. Please join hands with Mr. Governor to give us more smooth, slicky roads in Anambra State. Remember, better soup na money killer. Nnukwu ano bata nnukwu nkwụ, obele ano abata obele nkwụ. Please pay your tax as at when due. Maka Odimma, Anambra State. This message is from Anambra Broadcasting Service, ABS.
You're welcome back to the studio where we're talking Thunderstorm and flooding predictions, preparing for possible outbreaks. And we've been joined by Dr. Emmanuel Chukwuma. Emmanuel Chukwuma is a lecturer, Department of Environment, Nnamdi Azikiwe University, NAUT. He's an activist on environmental sustainability issues. You're welcome to the studio. Good to have you.
So much.
Okay, now on panel, you were saying something before we went on break, talking about the thunderstorm and the rainfall, the predictions we had earlier, and after the predictions we experienced what we experienced. So this time around, there's another prediction, and what do we do? So you were talking, you were saying something about what people need to do.
Okay, so like we were saying, it's more, we have better understanding, having experienced the disasters at least 2 major times between the past 15 years. So the awareness towards such prediction is high now. So what people need to do is know what to do. And if we look at, let's look at the one that basically affects us, or where we have more of the casualties, which are the rural areas. Those areas that are along the riverine, the river banks, and the rest of it, those areas are lower plains, so they have the more tendency for the flood to get to them first. With this prediction now, they should be alert, listen more to the information as will be released by relevant government agencies. Yes, and then to be proactive too. You have been warned, the flood will come this year. Start kind of exigency plan. You have relatives in the city, begin to talk to them so that you can, by the time the flood start coming, evacuate your things away. Last year's incident, I was talking with my father-in-law, who is from one of the flood-prone areas. Yes, and he was telling me that in the 1969 flood, it didn't get to the town, but they have where they call plantation, and the people remained in the plantation. What did they do? They were able to build within their houses a kind of elevation within the house. So the space between the roof and the elevation was there. But they stayed there all through the period of the flood. So they can also take such actions before the floods start coming in. Elevate, floors where they can operate within if they don't want to come out. And then if the other option is to come out to upper lands, and after the flood reside, they can go back. Such proactive measures can be taken.
All right, let me come to you, Doc. These things, it doesn't just happen. There could be some causes, why things don't just happen. So could you let us know what actually could bring about thunderstorm and flooding?
Okay, just like you mentioned something about changing in the climate. Okay, so if you take a look at 1980s, for instance, whenever it rains, there are 2 factors that affect the amount of water that will be absorbed. That is vegetation and soil. So the vegetation will absorb a number of them, and the soil will have to absorb a number of them, quantity of the water, and then the remaining ones have as a runoff. That is, they keep running over the ground. So take a look at Anambra State, for instance. If you look at what we call land use map or satellite imagery of Anambra State in 1980, take a look at what you have in 2001, and take a look at what you have now. We're going to see that in the map, what we call the impervious layer that water cannot penetrate as a result of roofing sheets, as a result of tide area in the building area, and a lot of them has 3 foot. So what it implies is that when it rains, there is no vegetation to absorb the water. What it implies is we don't have the bare soil, we don't have soil that will avail. So the infiltration rate of the soil has been reduced by the tiling of floor, all these things. So what happens is once it rains.
So it's not even the best.
Yeah, of course, there are some plans that that should have been inculcated even in the building of this place. At least every house or should be able to have a way of harvesting its rainwater to a large extent. Okay, but now we notice that most of them just have the roof and then tie the wall of the places, and each compound is releasing the whole of the water that should have been absorbed by the bare soil and the rest of them. So the consequence is serious flood. So we can't take away the fact that urbanization and urbanization is a major factor that leads to flood.
How?
Yes, because the impervious layer, like I mentioned, is increasing. So like I said, if you take a step, look at the land use map of Anambra State, 1980, you notice that the impervious layer, which I called that the impervious layer, that the area that water cannot penetrate again because of lack of vegetation and lack of soil has tripled. So what this simply means is we should be exploiting more flood with our urbanization plan and activity.
More water in the surface, on the surface.
All right, the picture you have painted, you know, that means tiling of our compounds, or you know, cementing of our compounds is not a very good idea. So in situations like this, what do we do as a people?
Yeah. Like I said, there are innovations that some developed countries are actually applying. One of these is they have rainwater harvesting system. Okay, it's not that you can't get enough water from the municipal system, but you have to harvest the rain so that you can reduce the amount of water you send out from your compound that leads to flood. So if people start harvesting their water, not just because they need it, but because they can harvest it to avoid flood, it's an advantage to the community. And then sometimes too, not every part of the building must be cemented or tiled. You just leave some of the
because even in developed countries,
green fields,
most times it's just the front.
Yes.
That you see, then you see grasses around. Then at the back, you see open.
There are actually two things. Either you go from your door to a lawn or grass field, or you move from your door to a paved floor. So they use the two together. And most times you have more paved floors are majorly for movements. Not like in our condition where it just shows affluence. You enter a compound and all forms of tile work there. But they give consideration to these factors. Even when they construct roads at their streets, they don't just clear all the trees. You see, that's why you have the word avenue. A street with trees planted. So all of these serve, you know, for the same purpose of absorbing water and leaving less on the streets.
Okay, now let's really go to the main thing we are looking at, which is flooding and thunderstorm. The predictions have come, and the possibility that it will happen is there because we've seen previous predictions that came to pass. Now, last year's own, I think to an extent, was well managed, more than the 2012. To my own understanding, you know, people that were moved to camp, a lot of incidents in 2012, which we did not know, did not happen much last year. And one thing is asking the people to leave their areas of abode to a place to be, you know, acquired for them to stay until the rains go down. Now, what should be the responsibility of government to ensure that the people do, you know, it's not easy to leave your house. What is government going to do, you know, from now till the time, because the rain just started in earnest. It's not been raining as we expected, and the cold is nothing to write home about. So what do you think the government should do in this respect to ensure that the people don't really feel it that much, that, oh, I'm leaving my house to a strange place?
Okay, the good thing about it is last year experience has shown the people that this is real. Because sometimes when you talk to people and when government is trying to have plans for the people, they are always reluctant, thinking that they don't have good plans for them and the rest of them. So what's the last year experience tell the people that this thing is real. And then with the forecast that there will also be flood this year, some of those flood-prone areas are now aware that it will happen. But the question is when. So this is where the government comes in, that should be able to give a more accurate and precise warning. Okay, and then the government should be able to consider the group of people you want to communicate to and what technology do they have available. Because some of them might not really have phones. You can send the warning through SMS, you can send the warning through town criers and the rest of them. So you should be able to assess the what is on ground in the community to be able to alert them, because some of these things can just take a few hours before you know it, a community is submerged. So government should be able to interface with the leaders and the people to be able to send the warning signals well ahead of time to give them enough time to kind of take action.
And now, do you think there is anything individuals can do to help, either to reduce the flooding when it comes, or to bring it down, to reduce it to so that it not be much? Is there anything individuals can do? Our attitude to environment, do we need to change it, to help when the flood comes? And of course the thunderstorm too.
Okay, let's look at the flood. For the flood, yes, individuals can do a lot. Not just individuals, NGOs, faith-based organizations, all spheres of the society. People can actually do a little of the bits that they can do. Part of the problem that results to flooding is also field drains. People can take it upon themselves. Your streets when it rains heavily is flooded, and is usually flooded, and then the drains are always filled. You can organize yourself within the streets on a Saturday, on any other day, come out, desilt it, so water has a passageway. We can also change our attitudes on littering. You're throwing the waterproof. Have you ever thought, or the PET bottle, have you ever considered where it will end up? Just like we were saying of the impervious layers, part of the contributions to the impervious layers are the waterproof and the plastics, which are almost taking over the top soil. So if we change those behaviors and then look at more ways we can social responsibility, be responsible socially, drain, desilt our drainages, I think we could get some respite from the effects of the flood.
All right, the program is Good Morning Anambra, thunderstorm and flooding predictions, preparing for possible outbreaks. We take a break here. The program returns after now. Do join us again.
Starts, NEPA do take light. Whether NEPA take light or they not take light, we just have to switch off our electricals at home in order to prevent fire outbreak.
The engineers, they know what to do. There's what they put on top every building. The thing works, but the only thing is that because of corruption in the system, some people go to China, import fake one.
Thunderstorm is a natural occurrence. It's not something anybody can stop, so we cannot stop it. However, we can do a couple of things to help ourselves.
One of the major concerns is actually the flooding, because what causes it? Most people put dustbin debris into the drainage and like the gutters, and when there is no proper drainage system, the water flows into the houses, the shops and everything. And then it's not like the government didn't create the proper drainage system, but then the people, I don't know if it's that we don't understand the consequences or the disadvantages, or that we just do it because it's easier for us. There are places created for keeping dustbins, dumping them. But then when you put it inside the gutter, some people even go as far as building on top of the gutter. How do you expect the water to drain well? Because it will rain. And when it rains, water has to be collected somehow through a channel. And when it doesn't work that way, water flows into everywhere. And it affects all of us.
In those days, there used to be, they call them in Igbo, one lala. I could remember in those days when I was young, one lala would just enter your compound unnoticed, and we check everywhere, the drainages, your toilet, your kitchen, and they will go. But nowadays, nobody does it. They should revitalize that section of health education.
Flooding is a natural disaster. And we as humans, we can do what we have to do. First of all, keeping the drainage system clean. Sanitation, we have to observe it. Yes. And also, people in the riverine areas should better off know how to handle the situation, because this is not the first time flooding will happen. So they have to be prepared.
Flooding is bound to happen when it wants to happen. There are things we can do to really help our situation. If you're talking about flooding, we should prepare our environment. How do we take care of our environment? It's very important. For instance, if you know flood-prone areas, how do we take measures? For instance, making sure that we have good drainage system, areas that are prone to erosion, areas that are prone to maybe heavy rainfall. We have to get people to upper lands so that they will leave all those areas in time. So we need to engage scientists, people that are in the geographical sector, to tell us when these things are about to happen, so that the people in low-lying communities and areas can be able to move as at when they should. And again, if we have blocked drainages, we should try as much as possible to prevent people from pouring in all manner of dirt and filth, because those are the things that contribute to flooding. If the water channels don't have a way to flow, of course it will now overflow to the roads, thereby causing havoc in our community.
You're welcome back to the studio. We've gone to the street to feel the pulse of the masses on issue at hand, talking about thunderstorm and flooding predictions. Now, Doc, I think at this point it would be important for us to, before we, in the process you might be, looking at what they've already said, the effect this thunderstorm and flooding can have on the environment and, of course, humans.
Yeah, it has a lot of effects. So like I was driving one of the nights, and then the kind of storm I saw around that court road was so heavy. So sometimes we think that the roads are not lasting. It's actually because of the erosiveness or the flood over the road. So sometimes the road that is supposed to last up to 20 years might not be able to last up to 10 years or 5 years because of the erosivity of the flood over it. So it affects construction materials. It affects constructed roads and then structures. Then another effect is it tends to destroy properties. Yes, a number of people, shops get flooded. They come in the morning, they left in the night, and everything was intact. But in the morning, they notice that water has entered and spoiled a whole lot of things. And then it affects buildings and even affects lives. A number of kids or children who might be coming back during those times, and there will be incidents of people getting drowned or being carried by the flood. Okay, so it also affects it affects the water body, because like we said, you mentioned about littering of waste in our drainages. A number of people find it easy to just throw their trash into the quota and the rest of them. So what happens is all these things are being moved into the streams, and then a number of aquatic organisms dies, and a number of these things push away to the aquatic organisms from their natural environment, and then it's affecting the ecosystem generally. So but the effect is enormous. And then as some of these flood tend to stay for a long time over some structures or buildings, and then start weakening the foundation and then structures, and then sometimes you see that the building is starting to collapse as a result of the effect of the flood on structure. So it has enormous negative effects.
There are some climes in the world that their environment is water everywhere, but it seems they don't experience what we experience in this part of the world. And one begins to ask, what could be their secret that they have water all over the place, but water is not swallowing them, you know. Can you come in at this point? Is there somewhere we are missing it?
Yes, in that aspect we are missing it, I think, fully. I saw a video, maybe I'll send it to you after now. A Chinese, I think either in one of the Asian countries, and he was paddling a canoe with passengers inside, and he got to a bridge, and you know, it was not the high bridge. He just jumped from his canoe on top of the bridge. While the canoe went under the bridge, he went to the other side, jumped in back. And it was between houses. You have the house here, you have, just as you have in Venice. Bayelsa, to me, should have that, you know, town plan. You have water all around you, and there is no way you will prevent those water from occupying spaces. If we had been proactive, if we have put our monies where we should put them, a city like Yenagoa should have that kind of layout where you have, you know, streets or canals within the town. It allows for the passage of water. And so you build roads, fewer roads, have your canals, and the canals can even serve both for tourism, for transportation, you know, within the city. So I think if we are looking at what you have said, in that aspect, we've not gotten it right. A place like Yenagoa, for me, my own opinion, should not, you know, aspire to look like Lagos, where you have roads crisscrossing each other. They would have looked at it from another perspective of how do we make sure that this river, that this water that surrounds us does not become a problem, but an advantage to us. And something like a city of Venice, or what I saw on the social media, should have been adopted for us here.
All right, what do you think are the challenges?
Okay, the challenges, like I said, a number of challenges comes up from, it has to do with we people, as a people. Yes, one is the society have their lifestyle, and they don't want their lifestyle to be tampered with. Okay, but we can't have a meaningful progress when everybody is not willing to sacrifice. Okay, so in the way of managing waste, people should be able to manage the waste properly. The drainages are meant to serve for drainages. You notice people shouldn't be able to, interfere with some of those drainages in the name of building house, building shops, and the rest of them. So our trying to satisfy ourselves is one of the major challenges we have, because everybody puts themselves first instead of putting the society and maybe the person next building or next at the end of the streets. Because some of these things, sometimes it might not affect the people who are doing it, but down the road it has some people that are suffering more in these things. So I think both the people and the government have put hands together to ensure that we have a better sustainable society.
All right, now Peniel, I don't know if we should attribute what is happening around us as that when things are not going fine, that some people are benefiting from that. You know, because in 2012, after the flooding, a lot of funds, you know, went into some pockets, and these funds were meant for people that were displaced, and some of them actually complained that nothing got to them, from individuals, from corporate bodies. A lot of people, NGOs, donated so many things to so many people. Then last year, the same thing happened. And government will, you know, put up some funds to take care of people that you know, suffer these things, or the people that are in displaced IDP camps and all whatnot. And we have another predictions facing us now. You know, predictions have come and gone, and at the end of the day, we still experience, you know, there is still bad outcome of the whole situation. So what do you think we can do, you know, to avert this to a certain level, so that, you know, when things keep happening, it doesn't mean we don't have people that can take care of situations, or people that are, you know, the responsibility are put in their laps to do these things?
Okay, I think it's two ways we look at it. Like Doc said earlier, people tend to put themselves first. And it's quite unfortunate that even at the expense of other people's life, you will see them. We've had situations where in IDP camps we hear bags of rice missing. You ask yourself, those people taking those things, don't they have conscience for those people that have been displaced already and are trying to manage the little that have been provided, and you are cutting away those things? So we have to bring the human aspect of us, have human sympathy for ourselves, and then if you are put responsible for such assignments, do it judiciously, professional, as the Bible will say, unto God and unto man. And then secondly, from the government aspect, it is not just enough to release funds. We should also have a system that checks itself. Money has been released for such and such assignments. How is it going? Where has it gone? Who is responsible? Has it been delivered? The system itself should have the check and balances to carry that. And I think it should also give rooms for the people, the displaced people, the people in the IDP camp, to give feedback. You said you are giving them blankets, two or four per family. At the end of the day, are they getting the 4 blankets per family? There should be a feedback to government so that you know if the persons are assigned
directly from the people involved.
Yes, if the people assigned to do this thing are actually doing according to what was specified. So if it's not just on the government side, but I think all hands working together, we can achieve.
Do you see the possibility of not allowing the predictions to happen this time, since we know the causes?
Yeah, the prediction is there, and then like we say, once you know the past, you can always predict the future.
Yeah.
So it's likely that this will happen again, and the best we can do is to
blaze up,
plan well, find a way to evacuate people, find a way to have early warning, send the signals to the people, and then find a way to have a better IDP camps and the rest of them. So we just to get prepared.
I think I'm speaking the mind of the people here, because these predictions, I keep saying it, is there no possibility or no way that will say that this thing will not happen again?
I think
the Cameroonians are opened their dam. Can we have
let's not mix it. The Cameroonians opening their dam compounded issues. Like I told you, the one that happened in Ibadan, I was there. In fact, coincidentally, I was on my way home. My car broke down, and while I and my colleagues stood there to walk it started raining. We stood under a shade for over 3 hours waiting for it. We saw the flood. We saw rather the storm water, the velocity of it. So we should just brace up to it. These things will happen. Even before the Cameroonians built their dam sometime in the 80s, there were floods before then. The dams are just to help the situation. Sometimes even dams are overflowed. You understand? So we should brace it up. All we should do is pray it is not as worse as we would expect. But we should brace up to the fact that the floods will come from time to time, and when it comes, the flood does not only have bad effects. There is in fact, in history, civilizations were majorly around flood-prone areas like the Nile. Because it brings, when the flood comes, it enriches the soil. So people tend to go about there to farm and the rest of it, So there are advantages and disadvantages of it. While we catch in on the advantages, let's also brace up and see how we can prevent it from having the worst of situations.
Okay. You have something to say before we wrap up?
Sometimes we want to use prayers to prevent the obvious. Yes, and some of these things have, like I said, once you have an experience of the past, you can always predict the future. future.
No, you didn't say prayers to stop. You said prayer that it will not be as devastating as the previous ones.
Okay, yes, I understand. Like somehow you mentioned something like the people would naturally want to use prayers to a kind of a way of yes, God answers prayers, but you have the wisdom of God to brace up. So the worst that will happen is it might not be as severe, but you should be prepared, because when you start using prayers, it will reduce your ability to get prepared.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right, we'd like to thank you so much. You know, having learned that the predictions, there's probability that it's going to happen, but just let us all get prepared for what is coming ahead of us. Thank you so much, Dr. Emmanuel Chukwuma, lecturer, Department of Environment, Nnamdi Azikiwe University here in Oka. Thank you so much for your time. We also appreciate you, Jack Peniel. Jack Peniel is a State Coordinator, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency, Nigeria. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
And that's how it's been today on Good Morning Anambra Show. Thank you for your time. Till tomorrow. Bye for now. My name is Nonyo Mokoye.